you're watching Race to Power. I'm Shreya Upadhyay. The saga of claim and counterclaims continues between Iran and the United States. President Trump has just put out a Truth Social post saying what Iran leaked as a peace deal is not what they have agreed upon in paper. Meanwhile, remember earlier Iran has refuted Trump's claim on the peace deal, saying that they will not agree until certain conditions are guaranteed. Who's speaking the truth? We decode this for you tonight. And even as former West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee struggles to keep her party together, TMC leader Kirti Azad strongly defended her today, and he's questioned the authenticity of the allegations that have been made by the rebels. All of these details are coming up for you in just a bit. But first, let's talk about what Donald Trump has said on the Iran war. The negotiations between America and Iran has the world watching keenly, but more than the deal, points and conditions, it is the claims versus counterclaims on how close both the parties are to deal which is making the headlines. Now, in a Truth Social post moments ago, Donald Trump has accused Iran of releasing the terms that have nothing to do with the written deal, also saying that Iran cannot be trusted to negotiate in good faith. He's also denounced the drone strike against Indian vessels leaving the Strait of Hormuz. He's warned Tehran to get its act together fast. That particular post has just come minutes ago. Now, Donald Trump's comment, remember, on the attack of vessels comes after US CENTCOM released separate instances and videos of the strikes to disable these ships, all of which had Indian crew on board. In fact, in one instance, 3 Indian crew members have been killed in those particular strikes. And now the US president said that it is Iran which struck the Indian vessels. Now, Iran's foreign ministry has said that while much of the agreement has been finalized, no final decision has been made yet. Officials said that Iran will not compromise on what it calls its red lines. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, meanwhile, says that he and the American president were in full agreement to keep Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. A day after Trump touted an imminent deal with Tehran. But remember, this is not the first time that Donald Trump has claimed that a deal is close and that the war is nearing an end. On multiple previous occasions, Trump has suggested that an agreement with Iran was just round the corner. So the question now is, how many times has Donald Trump claimed that an Iran deal is imminent? Well, Donald Trump has reportedly made nearly 38 to 39 such statements since late March this year, and this includes social media posts, public remarks, and media interactions. Take a look at few of those instances.
We're negotiating now, and it'd be great if we could do something, but they have to open it up. They have to open up the Strait of Hormuz. I would only say that we're doing extremely well in that negotiation. I was asked by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and some others if we could put it off for 2 or 3 days, a short period of time, because they think that they are getting very close to making a deal. The Strait's going to be open to everybody. You know, we've done a good job. As far as Iran's concerned, you're going to find out what the deal is. But the main parts of the deal is they can't have a nuclear weapon. The Strait will open immediately. You know, it's going to open immediately. We have ongoing negotiations in Iran and with Iran that hasn't stopped. And we could have at least an idea by 1 or 2 days from now. But I think it's going well. We just made a great settlement of the war with Iran, and we're going to be subject to finalization of documents, which should get done over the next few days. That with the Strait will officially open as soon as we sign, which could be soon, very soon, maybe over the weekend, in Europe.
Now, this time, the proposed agreement, as per reports in American, Iranian, and the Arab media, would reopen the Strait of Hormuz immediately while providing Iran with sanctions relief tied to compliance. The memorandum would also extend the current ceasefire for 60 days, including in Lebanon, creating a window for nuclear negotiations. Any concrete action on Iran's nuclear program would be deferred to a second, more detailed agreement. Now, one of the remaining sticking points involves Iran's demand for immediate access to funds. Remember, Tehran has insisted on receiving some money upon signing an initial agreement, while Washington has been pushing for releases based on Iranian compliance. Another issue involving Iran's frozen assets may be addressed through a separate side arrangement. Now, President Trump has said that he expects a signing ceremony to take place over this weekend. Vice President J.D. Vance could potentially sign this agreement in Geneva. But Iranian media has reported that the information regarding the signing of the deal is absolutely false. And so, all eyes are now on the weekend. All right, with that, let me welcome my guests on the show. He's joining us from Washington, D.C. live. Giorgio Cafiero is a professor, Georgetown University, and CEO of the Gulf State Analytics. Giorgio, good evening. Welcome to WION. What is your understanding? I want to start by understanding this of what has been happening, what has been said between U.S. and Iran. Donald Trump has just put out a post saying that, look, this is not what they had agreed upon in paper, and now they're just pretending to leak details of a peace deal which they have never agreed upon, which was never talked about. Who's speaking the truth? Whom should the world believe?
Well, thank you for having me on as your guest today. Really good to be with you. As you mentioned in your program, on dozens of occasions since February 28th, Donald Trump has spoken about some sort of a deal being imminent. So I think everyone who is a realistic observer is certainly taking the remarks from Donald Trump with a grain of salt. We should also keep in mind that throughout this conflict, Donald Trump has put out statements often to influence markets or because of domestic politics here in the United States, or to try to send a certain message to the Iranian leadership. So having said that, it's still possible that some sort of an MOU, some kind of a deal is going to be signed in Europe this weekend. But, I just want to emphasize that seeing is believing, and the fact that we haven't really received any confirmation from officials in Tehran adds to my skepticism. But let's be clear, if there is going to be something signed this weekend, this is really going to be very far from a comprehensive peace agreement. This will be really an extension of the so-called ceasefire, and it might open up an opportunity for talks to take place, perhaps direct talks between the U.S. and Iran, which would give both sides an opportunity to address some of the outstanding issues. But that's going to be very hard for the two sides to work through. So I just think all this optimism about some sort of a deal being signed this weekend needs to be very cautious.
You know what also adds to the skepticism, Giorgio, and the uncertainty is the fact that, and here in India, we have been extremely concerned about it in the past few days, where Indian seafarers have been attacked, and the US CENTCOM has posted these videos. But contrary to his own CENTCOM, President Trump has said that it was the Iranian drones that attacked Indian sailors who were trying to pass through Hormuz. So, this kind of contradictory statement, not just from the US president, but within the Trump administration, from Vance, from Hegseth, and the president himself, just adds to the entire uncertainty.
Certainly, and throughout this conflict, we've seen Donald Trump's remarks. They're very contradictory, and he's also contradicted many others in his administration. The example you bring up is just one of so many, whereby we see just total dysfunction and incoherence on the part of this administration as it wages a war that has had goals constantly shifting since day one.
The peace deal is concerned, while we do not know whether that will be finalized and eventually signed over this weekend, what do you think will be the off-ramp for Iran? Because Iran has been, making claims and counterclaims as well as far as what Trump has been saying. But, like we saw yesterday, Donald Trump said that, look, we're going to be capturing the Karg Island soon. There were questions whether that might be the final off-ramp that Iran needs to end this war and succumb to American pressure. What do you think would be, something that Iran would say that, look, this is what we have finalized and we are agreeing upon the peace deal now?
Well, I think Tehran's main incentives for signing something would be to see to it that the sanctions, or at least some of the sanctions, are lifted. The Iranian economy is in horrible shape right now, so sanctions relief is certainly a number one priority for Iran. Um, and then obviously, there are these questions about the guarantees of Iran not being attacked again. But again, I really want to underscore why everyone has good reason to be very skeptical. And as Donald Trump has really put in his own words, the ceasefire is just basically a continuation of the war with violence at a reduced level. It's not actually about a ceasefire. So any ceasefire that does get extended is going to continue to be extremely fragile. And of course, there's going to be different understandings of what the ceasefire actually means. We have seen since the Pakistani mediated ceasefire went into effect, there have been so many military clashes. It's sort of kind of the new normal now when it comes to U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East, to say nothing about what the Israelis are doing, that ceasefires tend to not actually be real ceasefires in the true sense of the term.
So, of course, we'll have to wait and see whether something concrete happens, over the weekend. A lot of people and now have seen the pattern as well, that it's about the markets that are influenced when he makes such statements. But let's wait and watch what happens. Giorgio, I'll leave it there. Thanks very much for joining us on WION and sharing your perspective.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
All right, with that, let's move on and get you more from the UK. Amid growing calls for leadership change within the Labour Party, UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer has found himself in the middle of a fresh storm, one that has put his membership at an unprecedented risk. But the Labour leader remains defiant in his position, and he says that he has not lost authority in his role.
We've had incredible prevailing winds in the 2 years we've been in government in terms of the international volatility and the impact on our economy. Notwithstanding that, we've had two very significant increases in defence spend, and we've just rehearsed that. Secondly, we've stabilised the economy. And I would just gently say this, that whoever is Prime Minister is going to face the same prevailing winds as I am facing. None of that is going to change.
Now, the comments come shortly after several leaders have quit their portfolios. Both Defence and Armed Forces ministers have quit over differences on military spending, piling pressure on Keir Starmer to step down. The Defence Secretary John Healey resigned after he alleged that Starmer's defence investment plan risked making Britain less safe. Healey's two parliamentary aides also resigned in protest. Hours later, the Armed Forces Minister, Al Kans, resigned after accusing Starmer of failing to adequately support military personnel and invest in defence. Now, the string of resignations weakens Starmer's authority at a precarious moment. The Makerfield by-election is just a week away, which is likely to see the return of Andy Burnham to the Parliament. Burnham, remember, who's currently the Mayor of Greater Manchester, is seen as the strongest candidate to replace Keir Starmer. Amid the volley of criticism, Starmer has named Security Minister Jan Harvis as Healey's replacement. Starmer also replied to Healey in a letter saying that his government has delivered the largest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War, and he's committed to keeping Britain secure. The Labour Party, remember, stormed to power in 2024, winning a landslide election centred on fixing British economy and illegal immigration. But since then, a host of issues, including rising cost of living, controversial tax increases, and anger over illegal immigration, have fueled calls within the Labour Party to replace Keir Starmer. The Labour leader has so far persisted, and he's resisted pressure to step down. But with the exit of his two top ministers, it now remains to be seen if and for how long can Starmer continue to stay at 10 Downing Street. Right, let me go across to my colleague Stuart Smith joining us from London at the moment, helping us give a perspective of what has been happening. Stuart, tough times for Keir Starmer. He's been through, one after the other controversy that's been happening around him and for him. But at the moment, what does it look like? What's his strategy forward? His top two ministers have resigned. There is clear rift within the Labour Party as well, supporters and those who stand anti-Keir Starmer. What is it looking like for the UK Prime Minister at the moment?
Yeah, well, he's made that clear this afternoon that he's not going anywhere and will stand in any leadership challenge. This is something that's very important, of course, to try to put aside any rumours that Keir Starmer is going to resign of his own volition. And he's consistently said that he would stand up to any challenger rather than resign. So that's the clear thing at this point, though there is this uncertainty, right? If Andy Burnham, the current mayor of Manchester, wins that by-election in the northwest of the country, then that means there will be a popular challenger who will take on Keir Starmer. So as we have effectively a week to wait until we know the result of that, it's not really clear what's going to happen. Keir Starmer won't go by himself. He'll only potentially be knocked out through a leadership challenge, but that leadership challenge may not even happen if Andy Burnham doesn't win that by-election. So everyone at this point is effectively waiting and seeing what's going to happen with that by-election and any competition. But it's terrible timing for Keir Starmer, specifically on defence, because next week there's going to be a G7 leaders meeting, these top economies meeting the leaders of them in France to discuss the very issues here that are at the heart of the debate, issues of defence, how to protect Europe from Russian threats, for example. And then next month he's going to Ankara for the NATO leaders summit. And all of this as the UK can't at the moment put a plan on paper about how it's going to do defence over the long term. This is what's at the centre of this debate. The Defence Secretary, the Armed Forces Minister and two senior aides have all resigned over a defence investment plan that they say doesn't actually keep the country safe, which is a damning endorsement for the Prime Minister. He's known on the international stage as walking the walk. He's supportive for Ukraine. He says the right things. But this plan, which reportedly, according to the outgoing Defence Secretary, would only boost GDP defence spending by 0.08% of GDP at a time when largely people think it needs to be around 3% overall, which means going from 2.6 to 2.68% is not enough, is what the Defence Secretary is saying. Right. And so this really is a problem for the Prime Minister, with, of course, one of the main priorities for any leader being able to convince his constituents that he can keep the country safe.
That's right, Stuart. So domestic as well as global pressures really coming in on Keir Starmer. Let's wait and see what happens for him and what his political future holds. Thanks very much for joining us at the moment with the latest. All right, with that, let's shift our focus now to India, where the crisis within the Trinamool Congress continues to deepen as the party stares at a split. A day after TMC MP and party loyalist Kalyan Banerjee issued an ultimatum to the party chief Mamata Banerjee, another lawmaker has made explosive remarks today. Trinamool Congress MP Kirti Azad has now levelled a serious allegation against rebel TMC leader Kakoli Dashtidar. He alleges that Dashtidar was caught on camera accepting 5 lakh rupees and questioned her integrity as she criticised Mamata Banerjee. Kirti Azad also alleged that TMC lawmakers who declined to sign a document faced intimidation by the Bharatiya Janata Party, claiming their homes were demolished. Kirti claimed that the document carried signatures in different ink colours to distinguish between groups, including 3 Muslim MPs. In fact, he's also claimed that BJP members were stationed at their homes with police providing external security.
से जिन एमपीओ ने साइन नहीं किया था, उनके घर में बीजेपी के लोग बैठे हुए थे, पुलिस बाहर से गार्ड कर रही थी उनको। बहुतों को तो घर तोड़ दिए गए, भंगचूर कर दिया गया, फैमिली को डराया धमकाया गया। बहुत सारे तो डर के आए हैं। लिस्ट देख लो, पहले 8 तो मान गए जो थे, उसमें 3 है, भापी हालदार है जिसका तो घर पर पूरा तोड़ दिया, तो काँप रहा था।
Now, Kirti Azad's remarks come a day after Kalyan Banerjee had said that Mamata must decide if she's with her nephew Abhishek Banerjee or with a senior party worker like him. The senior advocate, in fact, also announced that he would no longer appear on behalf of Abhishek Banerjee in legal matters. Remember, this move comes after Abhishek had filed a petition challenging a summon issued by the West Bengal CID in the legislator's signature mismatch case. The allegations come at a time when the TMC is battling one of its biggest internal crises in 15 years of its rule. Nearly 50 MLAs have formed a separate bloc in the West Bengal Assembly, and 20 MPs have signalled support for the BJP-led NDA. Amid the rift, TMC chief Mamata Banerjee faces fresh legal trouble as an FIR has been filed over her alleged inflammatory remarks at a Kolkata protest in March this year. This as legal challenges to the Bengal Assembly Speaker's decisions continue to persist. The Calcutta High Court on Thursday had questioned the West Bengal Speaker's decision to recognize expelled TMC MLA Ritabrata Banerjee as the leader of opposition in the Assembly without the consent of the party. On the 3rd of June, remember, Ritabrata Banerjee had claimed that Assembly Speaker Ratindra Bose had accepted the claim of nearly 60 of the party's 80 MLAs to be the main opposition. This as Mamata Banerjee and Abhishek Banerjee supported Sohandev Chattopadhyay as the LOP. Moving on now, Albania remains at the center of public unrest over a controversial luxury holiday property linked to US President's son-in-law Jared Kushner. Protesters say the proposed real estate threatens the protected wetland, which is home to flamingos, seals and sea turtle nesting sites. Thousands of Albanians have been protesting for a second consecutive week, calling on Prime Minister Edi Rama to resign. The demonstrators have accused Rama and the Albanian government of lack of transparency when it comes to the $4.5 billion worth project. Protests had first erupted at the development site near the village of Zvrnek, but then spilled over to the capital, which remains the epicenter.
We'll stop protesting only if our requests are satisfied. So the government should make new elections, and the law about the natural protected areas should be changed the way it was, not how they changed it in 2024.
Of course, first thing is to bring down this government, and second, which would make sense then, because only bringing down this government wouldn't bring anything good to Albania if the opposition comes in charge. I would like to have a new generation in the parliament, totally new.
Rama has repeatedly maintained that protests will not change the course of the luxury development, which is linked to Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner. The Albanian leader has said that the country needs foreign investment and tourism projects are a good avenue for Albania. Thailand is mourning the loss of Princess Bajrakitiyapa Mahidon, who's the eldest daughter of King Mahavajiralongkorn, who has passed away at the age of 47. The royal palace announced that the princess passed away peacefully on Thursday evening, more than 3 years after she was hospitalized following a sudden illness. The Bureau of the Royal Household said that the princess's condition had continued to deteriorate after she developed an abdominal infection. Known popularly as Princess Bha, she had been under medical care since December 2022, when she had collapsed due to a sudden health emergency. The palace said that she will lie in state at the Grand Palace in Bangkok, with the funeral rites to be held according to royal tradition. The princess, remember, was the only child of King Vajiralongkorn's first marriage to Princess Somsawali. A lawyer, prosecutor and diplomat, she was educated in Thailand, the UK and the US. She earned a law degree from Cornell University and later served as Thailand's ambassador to Austria. She also worked with the UN and was known for her advocacy on women's rights and improving conditions for women in prisons. The Thai Prime Minister, Anutin Charnvirakul, has paid tribute to the princess, saying that she was respected across the kingdom and had dedicated her life to promoting justice, equality and human rights. Mourners gathered outside the hospital in Bangkok to pay their respects, with many carrying portraits of the late princess. Some described her death as a deeply painful moment for the country, remembering her public service and connection with the people. Her death comes as Thailand continues to observe a period of mourning for the royal family following the death of former Queen Sirikit last year. The 73-year-old king, who has 7 children, has not announced his chosen heir. But remember, under Thai succession rules, male members of the royal family have historically been favoured. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Race to Power. Thanks very much for joining us tonight. Bye-bye.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
This 79-year cover-up of the truth.
As Disclosure Day hits the big screen, we decode